Our Vice President JD Vance and other top U.S. negotiators are heading to Pakistan today ahead of those high-stakes peace talks with Iran.
Meanwhile, President Trump says he is optimistic about working out a deal. Trey Yanks is live in Tel Aviv with the details. Good morning, Trey.
Yeah, Lawrence, good morning. High-stakes talks are scheduled this weekend in Islamabad, Pakistan, aimed at creating an agreement to end the war. With the temporary ceasefire in place, international focus remains on the Strait of Hormuz. Overnight, President Trump took to Truth Social to say, quote, Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That is not the agreement we have. With just 8 vessels reportedly passing through the strait in the first 48 hours of the ceasefire, a statement was released via state media from Iran's new supreme leader saying, quote, and certainly we are entering a new era with management of the Strait of Hormuz. We did not and do not seek war, but we will not give up our rightful rights in any way. And for this, we consider all the fronts of resistance as one. The region is waiting to see the outcome of the talks in Pakistan as Iranian officials and U.S. officials appear to be discussing a different set of terms. Iraq's foreign minister spoke this week about the talks.
We discussed the upcoming negotiation process in Pakistan, and we support and encourage this process. And we hope that the negotiation process will achieve its goals, which are peace and security in the region.
One issue that appears to be a sticking point is whether or not Israel will be able to strike Hezbollah, Iran's largest proxy base in Lebanon. Overnight, Israel struck launching positions in southern Lebanon, and shortly after, Hezbollah launched a rocket that triggered sirens in Tel Aviv.
I want to tell you, there is no ceasefire in Lebanon. We continue to strike Hezbollah with force, and we will not stop until we restore your security. Our great achievements, both in Iran and against the axis of evil, have brought about a historic change in Israel's status in the region.
You heard the Israeli prime minister there. There is no ceasefire in Lebanon. We do know talks are scheduled directly between Israel and Lebanon next week, aimed at creating peaceful relations between the two countries and disarming Hezbollah. Guys?
So, Trey, right now, were there any rockets, drones, attacks into the Gulf states yesterday?
Yes, Kuwait says they came under an Iranian attack yesterday. Other countries said it was quiet compared to the days before, but it's an indication that this war is not over. We're in a temporary ceasefire, and this question of Lebanon is quite critical because the Iranians say they're not even willing to sit at the negotiating table unless the ceasefire includes Lebanon. But as we saw last night, Israeli strikes against launching positions in southern Lebanon after the IDF picked up intelligence that there was going to be a large-scale rocket attack. And then later in the night, sirens were sounding here in Tel Aviv amid incoming rocket fire.
All right, Trey, thank you so much.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Senator Ted Cruz, he detailed why he thinks this has been so successful. He goes through, destroying the ballistic missiles, destroying the Navy, all the ships under the water. Listen to this.
In terms of this military operation, virtually all of the military objectives have been achieved with incredible success. We've seen the air defenses of Iran almost totally obliterated. We have seen the ballistic missiles destroyed. We've seen the ballistic missile manufacturing destroyed. The same with drones, both drones and manufacturing destroyed. We've seen the Air Force almost entirely taken out. We've seen the Navy, more than 140 ships sunk, the biggest naval defeat since World War II. We have also seen the Ayatollah and virtually all of the senior military leadership taken out. So in terms of a concentrated military operation, it's been incredibly successful.
So what is the senator talking about? 80% of Iran's air defense have been taken out. 450 ballistic missile storage facilities have been taken out. 90% of the Navy, that's 150 ships, been taken out. 95% of the naval mines have been taken out. 80% of the missile production facilities have been taken out. So if you would look at any other conflict, you would consider it a win. The problem is the political system has not collapsed. The population has not mobilized against the regime, and the Strait of Hormuz is now in their control. And so that's when you look at it from a military perspective, you would think that is a win. We are literally on the 5-yard line.
It's definitely a fragile peace deal. Iran is testing their limits. There are reports that Iran's going to start charging these tankers a toll to gain access of the strait. And Donald Trump said they better not be, and if they are, they better stop now. And the supreme leader is saying he plans to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. Well, that can't happen. That was the whole reason for the peace deal, to open up the strait.
So right now, they say most 15 ships are going to get through. You need 100 for business as usual. So think about the precedent. If you could just say international waters, that's near me, I'm going to take a toll. Take a toll. So the Taiwan Strait will take a toll. You'll see the North Korea deciding anyone passing in the vicinity, there'll be a toll. This will change the way we do international trade. This can't stand for multiple reasons. Now, we know there's a plan in place since the 80s, been sophisticated, been put up to date, how to take the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah. We know that some of the challenges are there's some tunnels underneath with these boats will come out. All you need is one fast boat that it's going to be maybe operated without any pilot to go in and just take out one tanker, and that could bring things to a halt. But I think militarily, this is going to be solved when we go in there with our Navy, with our military assets, and just take total control of the Strait of Hormuz and hold on to it, much like we've held on to Venezuela's oil production. It's for the people of Venezuela to benefit, but we're in control over it because the regime was not capable of doing it until they transitioned. That's pretty much where we're going to be heading, I think, within 2 weeks. They're using this as an excuse, saying, oh, Israel and Lebanon, they're going to have less and less control over that region. Hamas has been taken down to size. Hezbollah has been taken down to size. Israel's about to finish the job. That would diminish the influence of Iran even further after they lost influence when Syria flipped and Assad went out. So I just think it's understand within 2 weeks, I think President Trump is going to be implementing a take-back Hormuz deal.
And I also think that we also have to consider the Gulf states. We finally got the Muslim Arab world on our side. They're fighting radical Islam with us. To just disappear and allow them to deal with the consequences, because they're going to be the first one. Israel and the Gulf states are going to be the first ones to deal with the consequences when Iran restock their stockpiles. I just think that's a bad precedent, and they'll never fight with us ever again.
Well, yeah, I think so, too. And I think it's so important for the Gulf states to use their leverage over China to say, hey, look, if you're going to go rearm, if you're going to support what Iran has been doing when you know they're a terroristic nation, don't expect to do deals with our economies. I'm talking about Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. They have to send that message, and the president's going to knock it home in May when they meet face to face. This is all related. You can't have both. You can't have relations with Iran and with the Gulf states along with us.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.